So today we are receiving Josh and Dana from the Butterfly protocol, which is a decentralized DNS protocol. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Julian. Nice to be here. This is Dana.
Hey, thank you for having us. This is Josh.
So guys, like for every beginning of my interview, the obligatory self-presentation, please.
I'll kick it off and then turn it to Josh. Thank you again for having us. I'm Dana Farbom, the president of Butterfly Protocol. And we can talk more about what Butterfly is, but we're really here to change the world, as you mentioned, starting in the world of decentralized DNS. So some real good, exciting things to come.
Yeah, I'm Josh Robinson. I'm the chief architect. We've been working on Butterfly for a few years now. It'll be great getting the technology out.
In a nutshell, what is Butterfly?
Okay, Josh and I will go back and forth, Julian, so bear with us. But at the core, Butterfly is a naming system for the new internet. And you think of like Internet 3.0 coming, and we've got all these centralized worlds of naming things like domains like .com and .org, et cetera. We're changing and giving the world to give people an alternative to using that sort of same environment, only in a decentralized and distributed way. So we can start with the sponsoring of any number of top-level domains that people can do, even to the point where you could choose an emoji and you could have a top-level love symbol, per se, or whatever. So, and then everything cascades down from that with a whole ecosystem.
I think some of the important parts to me are that we are using the smart contracts and a DAO to kind of run all of that as well. So, what TLDs are created is all done through sponsorship, like you mentioned, and the things that can be named and the way it can be broken down can be anything. And it kind of creates a way for the ERC 721 and non-fungible tokens, as well as ERC20 compatible tokens, to be created at each of those levels as well, to represent different things.
Okay, so that's really interesting. I really want to dive into the detail, but first, I want to give some context. Many people don't know, but the DNS system currently on the internet is very centralized, and it's an organization in the US which has pretty much a monopoly on this for the top level domain name. That really make us really dependent on a choke point. So that's a real, very important problem to solve, especially with what we've seen recently with tech censorship. We can imagine that in the future, maybe this would extend to domain name as well. So I think what you guys doing is extremely important. And so I wonder, how does your system compare to ENS, Ethereum naming service, which seems to solve a similar problem, but on the blockchain? So what's the comparison here?
Yeah, I really like ENS. I think there's the place for both of us. In fact, there's also a place for us in collaboration, right? Because you have a couple of options right now. But as Josh was mentioning, there's a whole ecosystem below us. So rather than us just creating a top-level domain like .crypto and then having everybody try to, have their own, domain, subdomain under a .crypto, and then they're still in charge of that sort of top-level domain system, we're giving the total control to the ecosystem, right? So we're giving the control, anybody who wants to come and sponsor a domain, if they have enough of our core token, the Butterfly token, they could sponsor a domain. They don't own it. The registrar contract owns it, but then everything else below that can be built on. And we also offer the tool set to build the basic frameworks of decentralized applications to start building out the ecosystem. So again, I think there's some overlap, but I see more collaboration over time than I see overlap.
Okay, I see. So it's really two different use cases. Like you guys, it's more for the internet, and ENS is more for mapping strings, basically string of character to blockchain addresses. And so I'd be super curious to dive a little bit deeper into the tech. So what happened when a user type a domain name with the Butterfly protocol in the browser? What happened? How is it mapped to some IP after?
Just think about, the current environment. We don't live in the current like regular Chrome browser, but we live inside the Chrome extensions or the new browsers that will be built for the decentralized web. So if you think of like MetaMask as a Chrome extension, that's where we would live today more than we would live in the browser. But go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so we have a couple different interfaces that allow people to tie in to the Butterfly protocol. We will be releasing some Chrome extensions, like Dana mentioned, soon that will allow you to type, instead of HTTP, you type bproto:// in order to improve performance. We have some indexing services that we're going to be open sourcing soon that actually monitor the blockchain for any changes on Butterfly to speed up access. And of course, you can go directly to the chain to get the information, but we want to make sure it's all efficient as well. But when you go to that, you'll find the owner, and then we have a whole, we can dive into a little later, to data system that allows you to retrieve records built around services. And that's all managed primarily off-chain, the signing of those. And then those updates can be batched together and put on-chain that are then synced between different indexers and providers of data that way. So those will point to IPFS records or files that can be pulled. And that can be something simple, like a JSON object for a blog post, depending on the service, or it can be something more complex, like a whole file system. And we have it built so that there can be a lot of different types of services added very easily. And those different services are basically just different data structures depending on your use. So one of our primary initial example use cases, is we've built out a social app that does not run in the browser currently. It's an actual application that runs on mobile, iOS, and Android. It's in beta now, and that accesses the indexers directly and interacts with the chain for updates.
Okay, so there are two things I'd like to explore a little bit here. So first, if I understand well, the update of the data in the smart contract, is it something that is done by you, or is it something that can be done by the community? And second, for the integration with IPFS, do all the domain name have to do something with IPFS, or is it something optional?
Currently, all the data does live on IPFS. You can sync in different ways as long as you use a consistent hashing method. And what was the question again about the contracts?
Yeah, but basically, if I own a domain name and I want to transfer it to someone, so am I going to interact directly with the blockchain? Or am I going to interact with your backend? And how are we going to update the record in a smart contract?
Yeah, so that's all handled as each domain is handled as a ERC 721 or non-fungible token. So you can actually, any of the existing wallets that allow you to hold collectibles and things like that, your name is a collectible. So you can trade it directly. You can go to different marketplaces like OpenSea. Any of the ways you can trade those. You can trade a CryptoKitty. You could trade a Butterfly domain.
Wow, so that's really super interesting, because that means in the future we're going to have some decentralized exchanges for domain names. Because right now, if you want to buy a domain name, you go to Namecheap, some other register, you do your research, and then they show you if the domain is available or not. But if this is not available, you have to contact some broker that will negotiate the price for you, and everything is very opaque. But in the future, with your system, we'll be able to get a much more transparent pricing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing, is that because we sell the original subdomain, right? You have to come to us to buy them. So each of the top level domains, gets sponsored by a set of BFly tokens. Then that kicks out 10 million Butterfly tokens associated with that subdomain, including the ERC 721 token, right? So we will be providing sometime in the future a full exchange for that on our site for people to exchange those sub-BFly tokens for the original subdomains. But then after that, it can go anywhere, like Josh said. And like you said, total price transparency. If I want to sell, my name .human for $100, so just put it on an exchange for $100, or a private store or whatever.
I can see myself already be a user of your service, because now when I buy a new domain and I see that the domain is already used and like they say, okay, contact a broker. Like right away, I'm like, no way. I'm not like going to negotiate like 10, 20 grand, like for just some new side business. I don't know if it's going to take off or what, but yeah. Okay. So that's really cool. And so you guys said that at the moment you rely on browser extension for the system to work. So what's the long-term vision? Because I'm guessing at some point you're hoping that there will be some integration with browsers. So what's going to be the future?
Yeah, great question. So we definitely see an evolution, right? To where if it's a mobile environment, you could do a complete container in a mobile environment, whether it's with a web app, or whether it's with as Josh mentioned early on with Apple, iOS, and Google. But at the same time, we really see the explosion happening when we move towards a browser system that is connected both to the decentralized and to the centralized environment. So you can start to then run bridge environments, right? So if you think of Tor, you think of Brave, or these browsers that are really kind of getting out in front of the whole blockchain environment and decentralized web. We don't know if those will be the ones, but be a browser, whether we develop it or whether somebody else develops it, that can integrate with us. But at the same time, we see a need for a bridge to the old school, right? And over time, our belief is that with what's happening with edge computing, with local storage of data as local nodes, and even everything in the world that's man-made potentially being a data storage repository, and then pulling out of that with nodes aggregating, et cetera, we would see this moving towards more of a decentralized environment that leads with a certain amount of centralized environments for government, et cetera, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really bullish for the integration with Brave. Last week, they released a new feature, an integration with IPFS. Chrome, probably we're going to have to wait a little bit, but I think the best thing would be that the usage of Brave really start to take off so that we never have to wait for Chrome. That would be really great.
Well, look at Chrome versus Windows Explorer and all that. I mean, everything evolves, right? So
yeah, it's true. And okay, so there is one thing about your project I'm not too sure about is, are you guys on Ethereum or on Polkadot?
The naming convention and the domain name is Ethereum based, and there's several reasons for that. One of those being, it's very highly used. Obviously, there's a marketplace that's easily spun up, and you can create your ERC20 environments and your non-fungible tokens, et cetera. So from a naming convention, that is really, really where we want to be. From the decentralized applications that start to use the naming convention for, who owns my name.human, right? But then all the applications that use that don't have to be on Ethereum. So we can use any type of chain, any type of protocol in the dApp environment, perhaps have a bridge technology like Polkadot, and then start to tie things together. But Josh, I don't know if you want to add anything on that.
Yeah, Ethereum offered a lot when we were especially initially building everything out. But some of the design decisions were made around keeping the cost of gas and everything down. Going back to ENS, one of the big differences is every time you update any record in ENS, you have to spend gas. And with gas prices currently, that can get really expensive. So just changing where you point to. With Butterfly, the only time you really need to interact with the Ethereum chain is when you're transferring ownership of those domains around or creating a new one. Any updates are signed off chain, and then the synchronization can be, like I said before, batched up. So, thousands of users can commit all of their changes at once to the Ethereum chain, all signed by them individually. We're able to make the best use we can of Ethereum. And also, another difference, just wanted to throw this in there, is with Butterfly, once you own one of the names, you own it completely. You don't have to pay, because I was playing with ENS recently, and the annual renewal fee was fairly low, but then I go to renew it and I get hit with a huge gas fee. Yeah, with Butterfly, you don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah, I mean, right now this is a big issue. So yeah, we see all these other blockchains that are taking some market share of Ethereum, but as you guys may know, I'm a big Ethereum maximalist, okay? And no, but I'm not really worried about competition. I think it's when ETH2 is going to be released, we're going to see a lot of movement back to Ethereum. But the reason why I was asking this question, Ethereum or Polkadot, is because I saw on your website, so you guys also are gonna have a token, and you're gonna do an ICO, and I saw that you're gonna do this on Polka Starter, so that's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah, right. In essence, at the core of what we are is a decentralized autonomous organization, right? And so naturally, we look at our launch being on a DEX, a decentralized exchange. So when we started looking at, early, we were looking at bounce.finance because first of all, our tech is built, right? It needs some UI upgrades, but we're ready to go to market. So now we're at the point where we can take the funding and advance everything forward that much faster. So when we looked at the marketplace, we saw a change happening from where it was in 2018, where it was like raise $50 million and try to raise the highest level anybody ever saw, like Filecoin at 220 or EOS at billions or whatever it would be, to a point where we're coming in early with a lower raise, going on a Polka Starter initial offering at a public raise, still small, and then going directly into the exchanges, right, with the Uniswap play. So that's where we're at right now. We've got our Polka Starter public sale coming up on the 4th of February. We're doing all the pre-marketing right now, and then we immediately go on a Uniswap exchange and then start expanding into the other exchanges.
It's really interesting to see the project we start to launch on Polka Starter. Obviously, transaction fee are much lower. That's going to be a big advantage. So,
just to clarify, Julien, even though you've got Polka Starter integrating with Polkadot, it's not on Polkadot as far. It's still in the early stages themselves. Like their first sale was in December. So we've been with them sort of since the beginning, ideating, strategizing to the point where they've actually given us a lot of advice, and now that we're launching on them. But that in the future, I think the Polkadot integration with Polka Starter will be much more, considerable moving forward. But yeah.
I guess that's one big advantage with this new blockchain is that because they have much less people, they are much more willing to help new projects, so they can give you some resources, spend some time with you, etc. And so for people who want to participate in the token sale, can you explain what's the tokenomics?
Sure. The way that we break down tokenomics is two ways. First of all, it's the sale dynamics, right? So we had a 4-part sale prior to listing on Uniswap, which started with a real small advisor level, which then we integrate and have them come in and we can work on projects together. That was 100,000. Then we had a seed round, which was the next level up for 300,000. We had a private sale for 500,000. So that amounted to $900,000. So it's a very small initial raise for a company, right? And then the dynamics of that was that the price changes between advisor, seed, to private was just a few cents, right? It wasn't like $1 compared to 10 cents or whatever. It was just really a spread of 5 to 6 cents typically. And then the public sale, same thing. So that's the fourth component, which is happening on the 4th at Polka Starter. And then we go to the Uniswap. Overall, because we're only raising a hard cap of $1 million in this initial step, including the Polka Starter play, the market capitalization on circulation supply is pretty low, right? It's less than $1 million after the private sale. So the opportunity to come in early, even on Uniswap at a few cents above the private or above the public sale on Polka Starter, creates a real nice dynamic for early participants. And we do a 50% lock on all the early purchases and then a regular unlock over a period of time. So that's sale dynamics. The other aspect of tokenomics is that when people own the BFly token, they automatically stake into all the sub BFly token. If you own, say, 1,000 tokens, right? 1,000 BFly tokens, and you're just holding them in your wallet, and somebody comes in and sponsors a .repo for distributed repository or .defi or .dana or whatever it would be, You participate based on your ownership of Butterfly in 1.5 million of the sub Butterfly tokens. Total supply of the sub Butterfly token for any token or for every domain is 10 million. But DeFi owners own 15% of those allocated as an automatic staking, right? And then you can buy more of the 8 million. And if you sponsor, you get 500,000. So the token dynamics there gets real interesting because it's initial, but it's this long-term, like you think about it, 100 domains get, top-level domains get sponsored. You're getting a part of every one of those subdomains because you just held on to your Butterfly token. So I think those are huge tokenomics for the future.
Yeah, I really like that it's long-term, and also that you're gonna have like all these subdomain based on top level one. So if you guys are interested in the token sale of Butterfly, I'll put the link in the description down below.
The website is butterflyprotocol.io or butterflyprotocol.com. So you can go to that. You'll find there's a Twitter handle. It's typically Beat Proto, but I don't want people to get confused. Better to start at the website. And then, when I'm just talking about it, and then you can go to our Medium channel, you can go to Telegram, to Twitter from there.
Thanks, guys. That was super interesting. That's really the future of DNS, but decentralized on the blockchain. Bye.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Bye.